He had the strength to hold off 3 defenders. He had the body of a heavyweight boxer.
Goalkeepers had no chance.
Because he's the player I want to play with. The way he was an animal.
He had the potential to become the greatest striker the world had ever seen. In Brazil, they called him the successor to Ronaldo, stronger than any defender, deadlier than any forward of his generation. They called him the Emperor. His crown was forged from goals, his empire built on raw power and elegance, a man whose left foot tore through nets, whose body was a fortress, and whose presence could silence entire stadiums. In Italy, he was unstoppable. In Brazil, a hero. And for a moment, it seemed he would rule football for years to come. But the deadliest battle he ever fought was one no stadium ever witnessed.
Adriano, salta un uomo, arriva al limite, carica il sinistro, il tiro, e gol! L'imperatore!
Adriano Leite Ribeiro was born on February 17, 1982, in the heart of Rio de Janeiro's Complexo da Penha. He grew up in Vila Cruzeiro, a favela marked by poverty and violence. But to him, football was an escape. He spent endless hours playing barefoot between alleys and dirt fields. His father, Almir, was his hero, a man of integrity who, despite being surrounded by crime, stayed clean and worked hard to support his son's dream. Even with very little, he always found a way to buy boots, take him to training, and believe, more than anyone else, that Adriano could conquer the world. And that bond wasn't just love, it was the foundation of everything. To truly understand Adriano's destiny, you have to understand that bond between father and son. At 16, Adriano joined Flamengo's youth system. A year later, he was promoted to the senior team. A 17-year-old kid from the favelas now carried one of the most iconic shirts in Brazilian football. He started out as a left-back, but his power, speed, and deadly left foot made it clear to everyone this kid was born to attack. And soon the world would see that this was just the beginning.
You didn't defend against Adriano.
He was the definition of a complete striker.
Between 1999 and 2001, Adriano began turning heads at Flamengo. The kid from Vila Cruzeiro wasn't just potential anymore. He was the real deal. In only his second professional game at the iconic Morumbi Stadium, he scored a spectacular goal to help Flamengo come from behind against São Paulo. At just 17 years old, he was already making one thing clear. The kid from the slums wasn't afraid of the big stage. In 2001, his international journey truly began. He was called up to Brazil's U20 team, scoring 6 goals in 9 games. That kind of impact couldn't go unnoticed. Europe came calling. At just 19, Adriano signed with Inter Milan and met his idol, Ronaldo. Ronaldo became a mentor, teaching him how to dominate the field and how to survive off it. And Adriano didn't disappoint. In his first official match for Inter, he had a legendary debut. Against Real Madrid at the Santiago Bernabeu Trophy, he hit a free kick so powerful that some claimed it reached over 200 kilometers per hour. That thunderous shot silenced the Bernabeu. Brute force, surgical precision in a single strike. Right then, the world knew Adriano was something different, but he still needed minutes, rhythm, experience. With Inter full of stars, he was sent out on loan to develop. First to Fiorentina, 5 goals in 8 matches. Then Parma, where he exploded, 23 goals in 37 games, alongside Adrian Mutu in one of Serie A's deadliest duos. His game was pure intimidation. Too strong, too fast, too lethal. The comparisons to Ronaldo were inevitable. But many were already saying Adriano wasn't just a successor, he might be even greater. In 2004, Inter brought him back. There was a throne to be claimed, and Adriano was ready to rule.
He was a mix of Ronaldo's skill and Drogba's strength.
Adriano had something different.
The throne was empty. Ronaldo had left. Vieri was past his prime, and Italy needed a new king to lead Inter. Adriano answered the call. His power, physicality, and ruthless finishing made him a nightmare for defenders. In the second half of 2004, he scored 16 goals in 16 games. Numbers not seen since the golden days of Ronaldo. It was like the ball was magnetically drawn to his left foot. The Italian media crowned him l'Imperatore, the Emperor, a title that fit perfectly. Dominant, imposing, unstoppable. But he still hadn't reached his peak. That came during the 2004 Copa America in Peru. Brazil faced Argentina in the final, the fiercest rivalry in South America, down 2-1 in the dying seconds. Adriano struck a last-gasp goal to force penalties. Brazil won, and Adriano finished as the top scorer and best player of the tournament. 7 goals in 6 matches. In that moment, he wasn't just the Emperor of Inter, he was the Emperor of world football. He had conquered Italy, he had conquered South America, and he had earned the respect of the entire planet. Adriano reigned supreme, but his toughest battle was still ahead, and it wouldn't be fought on the pitch.
For a few years, Adriano was the most feared striker in the world.
By the end of 2004, Adriano was on top of the world. At Inter, he was untouchable. For Brazil, he was the new face of the national team. Everything was his. Then, on the other end of the line, the one call no son is ever ready to take. His father, Almir, had suffered a fatal heart attack. He was gone. The man who believed in him when no one else did, the man who gave him everything, was suddenly no longer there. Javier Zanetti, Inter's captain, recalled the moment.
He threw the phone and screamed, a scream I'll never forget.
Something inside Adriano broke that day. He still played, but part of him didn't come back. He started scoring with rage, pointing to the sky after every goal, each celebration a tribute. But grief is a silent poison, and that pain slowly replaced his hunger. The spark faded, training lost its purpose. Focus slipped, then came the absences, the missed sessions, the whispers. In 2006, he went to the World Cup representing Brazil as part of a star-studded squad. He was supposed to be the star, but he wasn't the same. The pressure was too much. The chemistry wasn't there. On the pitch, the Emperor seemed distant, disconnected, almost absent. Brazil crashed out in the quarter-finals. Adriano scored twice, but exited the tournament under a storm of criticism. From the media, from fans, even from teammates. It was the end of an era. The crown still sat on his head, but the cracks in the empire were now impossible to hide.
The most feared striker in the world.
The crown was still his, but the kingdom was slipping away. After the fall, Adriano tried to rise again. In 2008, he returned to Brazil, signing with São Paulo. Just 6 months, but enough to remind everyone who he was. 10 goals in 13 Libertadores matches. Then came a seeming rebirth. In 2009, at Flamengo, he became the Emperor once again. Top scorer, champion, idol. It felt like he had finally defeated his demons, but the scars still bled. In 2010, he went back to Europe. Rome would be his new capital. But it was a disaster. No rhythm, no spark, no soul. He returned to Brazil, joined Corinthians, won another title. But the Adriano the world once feared was gone. On the field, a shadow. Off the field, rumors, disappearances, scandals, silence. He could still decide games, but he couldn't decide for himself. From 2012 to 2016, his career limped on. Short stints with Flamengo, Atlético Paranaense, and even Miami United. His final match came in the United States. Far from the spotlight, far from the applause. And just like that, the emperor quietly gave up his crown. After retirement, his name still made headlines, but not for goals, for parties, vanishings, debts, excess. Many judged, few reached out, but those who saw his peak, who witnessed the rage, the power, the genius of Adriano, know that football has had many idols, but few emperors. In the end, he didn't lose his throne to another king. He lost it to a war no one else could see. He was loved by fans, feared by defenders, and remembered even by those who only saw him for a moment. And maybe that's what makes his story unforgettable.